evidence, not proof. And I made that clear. You may have seen the letter to the editor in the Deseret News that was published this morning, in which I said we have questions about this. The Scholars for 9/11 Truth group is pursuing these questions. We have evidence that there was foreknowledge, that is, before 9/11, that officials in our government knew that there were impending attacks, but did not stop them. But we don't have proof. We have just evidence, and I'll show you some of that evidence. But I'm going to back up now a timeline, going way back to September 2000. So this is just before President Bush was elected, which was in November of 2000. A group of men, and it's going to be, okay, I'll just try to give you as much as I can here in a short time. A group put together a document, and it's available now on the web that you can read, and I've read a fair amount of it. They're itching to get the United States military into Iraq back then. The process of transformation, you have to read this document. They're talking about a transformation of war. It's essentially, and they call it, well, they mentioned it's a revolutionary change in American society. They want it to be more militaristic, and I think that's just a good summary of what they're talking about. Much more money for the military thereafter. It is likely to be a long one unless or absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor. Again, that's a little bit chilling that they should say this is what we need to get this process going, or that at least that would do it. Yeah. So here's some more. I just quoted what they're after. Personnel strength, increased defense spending dramatically, reposition U.S. forces, Iraq is specified, defend the American homeland, which is now called the Homeland Security, control the new international commons of space and cyberspace. You know about our program to send missiles, so on, but cyberspace is not yet under control. Okay. Exploit the revolution in military affairs and American global leadership. Some of this sounds okay, except when you say the global security order that is uniquely friendly to American prosperity. Now, I don't read that in the Constitution, that we should have some kind of global security order that is uniquely friendly to ourselves. The term my friend Professor David Griffin uses for this is American empire. That's what it sounds like. You agree, David? It's a little scary. The Constitution does not say we can establish a global security order to maintain American prosperity. These men are called neoconservatives, but they call themselves that, and they're now in the administration. Richard Armitage, Bill Bennett, Jeb Bush, Ellen Bork, Dick Cheney, Khalilzad, Louis Libby, of course, indicted, Richard Pearl, Don Rumsfeld, and Paul Wolfowitz, who's now the president of the World Bank, appointed by President Bush. And to me, this is information we need to know. More puzzle pieces. I wish it wasn't so that they had this plan and we're seeing it coming out. But folks, we can read about this plan. We can stop it if we want to. If you want to have American empire, then you can continue to support this group. They're called neoconservatives. Okay, now, forewarning. There are reports in foreign newspapers, not a lot of this, and BBC broadcasting. U.S. officials were warned of imminent major attacks by terrorists, especially during the summer of 2001. This is before 9/11, by Britain, Egypt, France, Germany, Israel, Italy, and so on. There were names of 4 of the terrorists. I don't recognize all of these, but I do recognize Mohammed Atta, who was one of the principal hijackers. So as this came out, this came out, of course, after 9/11, the fact that these warnings were given to the United States government. And Jane's Intelligence Digest says, it is rather strange that the U.S. media seems to be ignoring what may well be the most explosive story since the 11 September attacks, the foreknowledge. Well, there's a lot of explosive stories, including explosions, that were heard by many people, but as you see, the squibs and so on. Kurt Weldon. Now, I support Kurt Weldon. He's a Republican out of Pennsylvania. He is pursuing this question of the foreknowledge by the government of Muhammad Atta. And intelligence operation which pursued Atta is called Able Danger. You may have heard of that. And Kurt Weldon is spearheading this investigation. And here's what he says as he rises last summer. I rise because information has come to my attention over the past several months that is very disturbing. I have learned that, in fact, one of our federal agents had, in fact, identified the major New York cell of Muhammad Atta prior to 9/11. An editorial about this, which was in the Wall Street Journal, says, and I'm just quoting now from the editorial, the final 9/11 Commission report, released in July of 2004, concluded that American intelligence agencies were unaware of Mr. Atta until the day of the attacks. This now looks to be embarrassingly wrong. Even the most junior investigator would immediately know the name and photo ID of Atta in 2000 is precisely the kind of intelligence the FBI has many times employed to prevent attacks. Yet the 9/11 Commission inexplicably concluded it was not historically significant. This astounding conclusion. See, these words that people use, like, what is going on here? How could they make a conclusion like that? And later, initially, the 9/11 Commission people said, well, we didn't know. And then later they said, well, yeah, we did, but we didn't think it was that important. Gosh, it's very important. Here's some more. It's September 10th, the day before. Just a number of things happened that could be coincidences, but it could be there was foreknowledge. Newsweek reported on September 10th, Newsweek has learned, a group of top Pentagon officials suddenly canceled travel plans for the next morning, apparently because of security concerns. On September 10th, Donald Rumsfeld admitted at a press conference that over $2 trillion in Pentagon funds could not be accounted for. Quoting Rumsfeld, according to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions. Ordinarily, you'd get some interest out of that soon. But on the 11th, the next day, the course was this tragedy, and all of this was essentially, as it says, forgotten, all but forgotten. And some of this has been found, but apparently not all of it. There's still hundreds of billions, I understand, missing. Nobody seems to be worried about. The day of September 11th, that evening, Rumsfeld went to Congress, asked for more money for the military to fight terror, and of course the money was soon allocated in fulfillment, remember, of this strategy, this roadmap of the neoconservatives that we need to have more money for the military and beef up our, in fact, have a transformation in society. Okay, this is interesting. I'm just going to summarize. In fact, I'll quote this one involved. FEMA was Johnny on the spot on 9/11. How did that happen? Remember, after Katrina, they were slow. But on 9/11, they were right there. In fact, they were there the day before. That's true. And it was admitted by Mayor Giuliani. He says on September 12th, this pier was going to have a drill. So the people gathered on the 10th, you see, and this guy was one of the drill. We arrived late Monday night on the 10th, and of course went into action on the 11th. It had hundreds of people here from FEMA and so on. They were ready for a drill on the 12th, but they came in. Of course, the equipment was already there also on the 10th. Now, that to me is a bit suspicious. In Manhattan, folks, downtown New York, we're not talking about, the drill was at the right time in the right place, the day before. The match is about to begin. This is a bit of intelligence that leaked out of the Senate Intelligence Committee. It was a communication to Muhammad Atta, and the message stated the match is about to begin. This was again on the 10th. One would like to know who's the message from, right? And why don't we know more about it? The